Good afternoon, everyone. In today's video, I have yet another live market commentary video, this time inside of the Nasdaq futures market. The trade setup that came in today was during the Powell testimony, and that acted as our volatility catalyst. Now, as we go through the recording portion of this, you'll see price got fairly close to actually stopping us out on this trade. That was, again, the same volatility we're accustomed to seeing, but we did do a few things differently in today's video, which were highlighted essentially from our previous mistakes. That's supported by the 3 takeaways covered in the March 1st, 2022 video. I'll leave a link to it if you haven't seen it. That was from a couple days ago in the most recent video. Takeaway number 1 in this was the 3-minute charts edge signals, which are overbought, oversold confirmation signals, are currently working or providing a safer bet during periods of uncertainty, and that Powell testimony today definitely set up for a period of uncertainty. That was included in the morning volatility note as well today. Number 2 takeaway was using any morning clues that we had, which we didn't have any today, to scale our expectations for the day. The only clue that essentially resulted was this scheduled event with the Powell testimony. So number 2 didn't really come into play as much today as it did on March 1st, where we had, say, the bonds indicating a clear risk-on environment. Now, takeaway number 3 was that conservative models are more likely to hold compared to something like the scalper, again, essentially during periods of uncertainty. We saw that as well coming into play today with the trade inside of the Nasdaq and on the respective volatility model it's set up on. Now, without talking too much, let's move on to the actual charts of the Nasdaq, and I'll queue up the recording from when the trade actually set itself up. Alright, so we have a chart of the Nasdaq here, and we have an active breach along with an edge signal on that 3-minute time frame chart, sort of changing up the way or the time frame we usually would use. Instead of that 1 minute, switching to the 3-minute. So we've had the breach, we've now had the edge signal, Powell testimony is still going on right now in the background, and for those of you listening to it, it's excruciatingly painful almost, it feels like, for some of the questions that are being asked, but that's besides the point. So let's take a look now to see what happens in terms of price action here. We've gotten the breach, we've gotten the fill, we've gotten an entry price better than our cyan line, and for those of you that were a bit more patient, you probably got an entry at the clouds as well, so you got a chance to cut your risk some more. So far, it's looking like this trade may still go against us with that 3-minute time frame chart, but let's take a look to see what happens. I'll put up a line in the recording phase, or the editing phase, which breaks down the place where the stops are and the place where the first target is, so we can just keep an eye out and see what actually ends up happening. Alright, so I'll probably stop with the commentary here, but let's take a look to see how price action pans out. So far, looking a little bit more bearish than bullish, but hey, we've gotten that edge signal on that 3-minute time frame chart. Waiting for that 3-minute kept us out of the scalper on the Nasdaq, so hopefully that ends up being a good sign here and we don't continue just having a meltdown. Let's take a look and see what happens. Alright, so another quick follow-up here. We're starting to see some buyers come in, a little bit of a double bottom sort of price structure here. So hopefully we can hold this level without having sellers keep pushing through where our stop would be. So let's see what ends up happening. The 3-minute edge signal on this candle has been printing on and off. You can see it back on right now. So let's see if we finish printing with this edge signal. That would be a nice little double bottom confirmation, really confirming that we're truly oversold in this level, looking for at least a smallish bounce at the very least. So let's see what happens, but there's a quick little update based off of current price activity inside of the Nasdaq. Another little update here, so that 3-minute edge signal did finish printing. We had a little bit of a bounce, at least up to the market pulse so far, so a retracement in an otherwise downwards trend. Now I'd like to see price action break above the market pulse as well, and hopefully that market pulse goes green or even gray, a little bit neutral for the time being. As for right now, we're above the entry price, so that's a good thing. We did get fairly close to touching the outside of our clouds, which for those of you that like to scale in, better opportunities to add. But otherwise, that was the heat we've had so far in this trade. Let's see now if we can start to gather a little bit of momentum here, some legs underneath us, and start to make a move towards the target. So far, it's looking like price action's holding. Wouldn't be too surprised to see a bit of a reaction here, considering that we've now pulled back in an otherwise downtrend. So maybe a small reaction, maybe something like a higher low potentially before we see the next leg up. That would be, I think, something that would make a lot of sense if we did see that. All right, let's keep watching. All right, another little update here. So far, we've seen a bit of a bearish sell-off here. If we can close above that previous candle, then that would confirm the idea of a higher low compared to where we had the two edge signals before. If that does happen, then I think that would again support the idea that we can go retest our previous highs and then break above it if we can. Now, market pulse also did go green, but it didn't hold as well as I thought it would. So let's see what ends up happening here. If we can close above, I think that would be a good sign of price activity leading up for that next leg higher that we were looking for earlier. All right, last update for this trade, and we just hit our first target. And what a move that really was if you take a look at how big these candles are. Plus 1,000 tick readings all over the place. Usually, at least this week so far, we've been on the other side where it's been minus 1,000 tick readings taking us out. This time, we at least got the lucky end of the stick here, where that plus 1,000 took us into the first target. Now, we've also triggered our short side breach. We've hit the upper side of the volatility box lines. So now I'm looking for that same setup one more time, this time a bearish edge signal, so a red arrow. And if we can get that while being contained inside of the aggressive model here, then I think that would make for a nice move where we can try and play the short side, looking for a reverse feeding this buying activity that we're currently seeing. So I'll keep an eye out here if we can see that red arrow, but for the time being, this bullish trade is now officially done. We hit the first target. Second target is a bit of a ways away, and in fact, the fact that we're now on a short side trade may be a good reason to pull the plug there earlier. Stops on any remaining contracts for those watching are now at break even. All right, let's take a look here to see if we can get a short setup as well. It's not looking like we're gonna see that short side edge signal that we were looking for. There's just a lot of chaotic activity right now, a lot of sellers coming in, a lot of buyers coming in, no real clarity. I don't really want to try and be a hero and move down to that 1 minute time frame chart, especially after the week that we've had off of it. For those of you that were scalping, you probably had a nice trade here, but for the 3 minute time frame chart, we've just had that long, and now we're hitting that first target. So this trade no longer active, but you can see how price went basically towards the edge of the clouds here. And then we just saw sellers come right back in, reversing price action, hitting that first target. So hopefully today's video gives you an idea of the long side setup, a little bit of heat, short side setup as well, being on the lucky end of those plus or minus 1,000 tick readings, and what reverse price activity looks like. All right, take care everyone. Good luck trading. We'll see you in the next update.